IELTS Listening Practice Test. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to Section 1. Section 1. You will hear a man calling a hotel to report a lost item. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 3. Now listen and answer questions 1 to 3.
Good afternoon, City Central Hotel. How can I help you?
Hello. I need to report that I lost something important while staying at your hotel yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'll just take some details. Could I start with your name, please?
Yes, it's Daniel Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. And may I ask your nationality?
I'm Australian, though my grandparents were originally from Scotland.
And your date of birth?
It's the 3rd of March, 1982.
Right. So are you here on holiday?
Not exactly. I'm an architect, and I've come here mainly for work. I'm attending a design conference.
I see. And how long will you be in this country?
Just for 6 weeks, I'll be leaving next month.
Okay. And which room were you staying in at the hotel?
Room 214 on the 2nd floor.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 4 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 4 to 10.
Now, could you tell me exactly what was lost?
Yes. I had placed my briefcase in the room, but when I came back after lunch yesterday, it was gone.
I see. And what was in the briefcase?
Well, luckily I didn't keep my passport in there. That was in the hotel safe. But there was around £300 in cash. I had withdrawn £400 earlier in the day, but I'd already spent about £100 on books and travel.
I understand.
And I also lost my tablet computer. It was fairly new, only about 2 weeks old.
All right. And when do you think the loss occurred?
It must have been yesterday, on September the 12th.
Do you have any idea where it might have happened?
Well, I left the hotel at about 1 p.m. and went to the art gallery with a colleague. When we were leaving around 3:30, a couple of teenagers came up to us and asked for directions. They were standing very close, and then suddenly they ran off. That's when I started to feel something wasn't right.
And you describe them?
The one who spoke to me had a sweatshirt with a logo of a football club on it. He looked about 13.
Any details about his appearance?
Yes, he was quite short, with dark hair. His friend had lighter brown hair, but I didn't notice much else.
Okay. I'll make a note of that. Finally, I'll give you a reference number for the report. Please use it if you contact the police or your insurance company. The number is 6249081753.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That is the end of Section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Section 2. You will hear a manager giving an introductory talk to a group of new apprentices who are beginning their training at a company. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Helen Grant, and I'm the Training and Development Manager here. On behalf of the whole organisation, I'd like to say how pleased we are to have you starting your apprenticeships with us. I'm confident that over the next 6 months, you'll gain not only technical skills, but also a clearer understanding of what it's like to work in a professional environment. Let me begin with a few general pointers. For many of you, this will be the first time you've joined a large company, so don't be surprised if the first days feel a little overwhelming. You'll be introduced to a lot of procedures and systems, and it's natural not to remember every detail straight away. What matters most is that you ask for guidance whenever you're uncertain. Your supervisors are approachable and ready to support you. Also, during your initial week, you'll rotate through several different departments. Take this chance to interact with as many colleagues as you can. By doing so, you'll build useful relationships and learn how different parts of the business connect. In addition to your supervisor, each of you will also have a mentor. This will be someone who has recently completed their own apprenticeship here. You'll meet them every week, and their role is to give you encouragement and advice. They won't be completing your assignments for you, but they will ask you about progress on your goals, help you recognize where you might need to improve, and talk with you about your long-term career plans.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
I'd now like to cover a few important company rules and expectations that apply specifically to apprentices. First, the matter of internet use. You'll need online access for carrying out research and completing tasks, and for that, you'll have full access. However, it's important that you don't use the company network for private browsing or social media. For personal matters, please use your own phones or laptops outside of working hours. Several of you have already mentioned flexible working. After the initial 3-month trial period, some apprentices may be allowed to work more flexible schedules. This depends largely on the department you're placed in and your personal circumstances, so it won't be guaranteed for everyone. Now regarding holidays, other than official public holidays, you'll need to avoid booking any personal trips until your apprenticeship is completed. The only exception is if you're unwell and need to take sick leave. If that creates difficulties, make sure you speak with your supervisor. The working week here is 40 hours, but during busy periods, you may be offered extra shifts. Taking on additional hours is optional, but it can be a valuable way to gain experience and demonstrate commitment, so we recommend it if you can. As for dress, we don't insist on formal business clothes. Casual outfits are perfectly acceptable, provided they're practical for the workplace. One rule we do have is no high-heeled shoes for safety reasons. Flat, comfortable footwear such as trainers is actually encouraged. Finally, a quick word about meals. We have a staff canteen where you can get freshly prepared hot dishes and salads at a very low price. Light snacks and drinks are also provided. Because of this, we ask staff not to bring in their own packed lunches. This policy also prevents people from eating at their desks, which is unhygienic. That brings me to the end of my introduction.
That is the end of Section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Section 3. You will hear two students studying urban planning, called Emma and Jack, discussing their upcoming presentation on cities located on coastlines. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Right, Jack, I'm glad we chose a more precise topic. Cities next to the sea. It made gathering relevant material much easier.
Absolutely. Cities are expanding so rapidly these days. Over half of the world's population already lives in urban areas.
Yes, though that's general for all cities. But did you notice that the largest urban centres are mostly coastal?
I hadn't realized that. Interestingly, many of them are built where rivers meet the sea. That can cause issues, though.
Why's that?
Well, as cities grow, farming and industrial zones extend further up the rivers. That's fine in itself, but it results in more pollutants being carried downstream to the cities.
So the water quality in the city gets affected?
Exactly. Did you read that report about Miami in the US?
No, I haven't.
Apparently, back in the 1950s, they created channels to remove excess water during floods.
That seems reasonable.
Yes, and it cost a lot. But they didn't consider global warming. The channels were too close to sea level. Now, as sea levels rise, they aren't effective. Heavy rainfall can't drain properly, and flooding becomes likely.
So what are the city authorities doing now?
From what I read, they plan to stop releasing wastewater into the ocean over the next decade.
But that doesn't solve the immediate flood problem, does it?
No, they need to secure funding for a new system to replace the outdated channels. Long term, they also have to consider environmental impacts more broadly.
True. Coastal cities can't manage these challenges alone. They need to collaborate internationally.
Agreed. Environmental experts already know the problems and what solutions could work, so some cooperation is possible. But it may take a long time for countries to agree on common policies.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen carefully and answer questions 26 to 30.
I think we have enough material for our 15-minute presentation.
Yes, we should start with a brief historical overview of why coastal cities developed, but keep it concise. The audience probably knows some of this.
Right. Then we could discuss geographical features like estuaries, wetlands, and coastal erosion. Maybe include maps showing different examples.
Would that be on handouts or slides?
Slides would work best.
For past mistakes, we could focus on one case study, such as New Orleans and the flooding that occurred a few years ago. It'll illustrate the issue well.
Good idea. Most students will remember hearing about it.
Next, we can cover measures being taken to reduce problems in coastal cities.
And what about future risks? We should explore long-term consequences if populations keep rising.
We'll need to gather more information from reliable websites. It shouldn't take long.
Finally, we could end with international aspects. Perhaps involve the audience since people are from different regions.
That would be interesting if time permits. Shall we move on?
You now have half a minute to check your answers. Section 4, you will hear part of a lecture on renewable energy that makes use of the power of the sea. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
In recent decades, the challenge of producing enough energy has grown significantly. Populations continue to rise, industries are expanding, and traditional fuels such as oil and coal not only create pollution, but are also finite. For this reason, researchers have increasingly turned to renewable sources that can provide cleaner alternatives. Today, I'll focus on ocean-based renewable energy, sometimes called marine energy. This refers to harnessing the natural forces of the sea in order to generate electricity. Broadly, we can divide this into three categories: wave power, tidal power, and ocean thermal energy conversion. Let's begin with wave energy. Engineers have designed many different machines to capture the force of waves, with names as imaginative as Sea Snake and Wave Rider. The attraction of this resource is that the waves are continuous, and so the supply is dependable. Electricity can be produced either near the shore, using reservoirs, or offshore with floating structures. However, there are difficulties. Waves rarely move in a straight, even line. Instead, wind pushes them in different directions, making it hard to design efficient systems. Another concern is that sand and other material on the seabed may not flow naturally once barriers are in place, leading to potential damage to marine habitats. The second form of marine energy is tidal power. Unlike waves, tides are far easier to forecast. We know with complete accuracy when they will rise and fall, even decades into the future. For tidal systems to operate effectively, the difference in water height needs to be significant, around 5 meters or more. While this occurs naturally in limited parts of the world, similar conditions can be created artificially. One ambitious plan involves constructing a tidal lagoon on the Welsh coast. This lagoon would be located within a natural bay and protected by a long curved wall stretching into the sea. Inside this structure, a series of turbines would be placed. When the tide comes in, water flows through the turbines and produces electricity. Later, when the tide retreats, the water is held back until its level is much higher than that of the sea outside. At that point, gates are opened, releasing the water forcefully in the opposite direction, and the turbines generate power again. With 2 tidal cycles each day, the lagoon could produce energy several times daily, providing electricity for hundreds of thousands of households. This approach has a number of advantages. Unlike solar or wind power, it does not rely on weather conditions. No fuel is required, greenhouse gas emissions are avoided, and only limited maintenance is necessary. It is also estimated that thousands of new jobs would be created in building and maintaining the equipment, bringing economic benefits to the region. Nevertheless, critics have warned that tidal lagoons may interfere with wildlife, for example by affecting the routes taken by fish and birds, or by causing silt to accumulate and alter the surrounding ecosystem. Finally, let's turn to ocean thermal energy conversion. This system depends on the large difference in temperature between warm water at the surface and colder water far below. The technology, which involves pumping cold water up through long pipes, is suitable for tropical coastal regions, where these temperature contrasts are greatest. Although the idea dates back more than a century, only recently have scientists begun to test it on a wider scale.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.